is your local election headquarters.
Louisiana Congressman and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise says he has been diagnosed with a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. He says he's already in treatment and says, quote, "I expect to work through this period and intend to return to Washington, continuing my work as a majority leader and serving the people of Louisiana's 1st Congressional District." Support from elected officials across the state poured out for the congressman. State and federal officials announced ways to improve the state's infrastructure to be more resilient against future storms. Congressman Troy Carter and advisor to President Biden, Mitch Landrieu, presented $200 million in FEMA funding from the first Climate Resiliency Grant in Jefferson Parish. $19 million will go to Entergy to install new poles and wires that will withstand winds up to 150 miles per hour.
Of course, right now with Idalia, we know all too well that not only do you have to be prepared for a storm, not only do you have to respond to a storm, not only do you have to rebuild from a storm, but the way that you build in the first place matters.
There are more than 50 similar projects around the nation, all part of last year's bipartisan infrastructure law. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy wants to reassure people that the federal government is ready to step in and help in the flood insurance crisis. He says as many as 20% of the people who have flood insurance right now will drop it because of the costs. Cassidy says it's time to reform the system, but he says federal funding offers homeowners help.
We have billions for mitigating the risk of flooding to families and billions for coastal restoration. Both of those will work to keep premiums down in the future because it lowers the risk of flooding.
Cassidy says $35 million federal dollars are being used right now to elevate nearly 200 New Orleans homes. There are ongoing lawsuits against FEMA to halt the new Risk Rating 2.0 price rates. An emotional week for many in Louisiana as it marks the 18th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. In the wake of the disaster, the Gulf Coast region faced unprecedented challenges. Nearly 1,800 lives were lost and countless homes were destroyed. Elected officials gathered in St. Bernard Parish to remember those who were lost to the destruction of the storm. August 29th also was the 2-year anniversary of Hurricane Ida. Hurricane Ida slammed South Louisiana as a Category 4 storm. The winds were around 150 miles per hour when it hit land, and blue tarps are still on top of some homes as people work to rebuild communities along the coast. 26 people died because of Hurricane Ida. In our continuing effort to let you hear from candidates for governor, our own Shannon Heck sits down with John Schroeder. That's coming up next. Stay with us.